schedule one.
Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Worcester City Council. And we're here this Monday, May 16th, 2022 in Council Chamber, and we're also streaming live on YouTube. It is after 7:30 p.m. Next meeting will be Monday, June 6th. Happens to be D-Day for us old enough to remember, or at least recall it in our history lessons. Mr. Paulo, as clerk of council, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Cap,
Here.
Ms. Knappich, Mr. Myers, Mr. Reynolds, Mr. Sanders,
Here.
Mr. Silvestri,
Here.
Ms. Warden. Here.
Tonight, we're small and mighty, but we do have a quorum. The agenda will remain as presented, and at this time, I would ask you to join Worcester City Council in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. I would entertain a motion for approval of the minutes of the May 2nd, 2022 council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Silvestri to approve, second by Mr. Sanders. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Welcome, Mayor, and looks like we have a nice evening. We had a kind of a rough late afternoon shower, hopefully.
We did.
Everyone survived.
Yep, and nice to see the sun shining
Yep.
through those windows. So, well, welcome, councilmen and ladies. Appreciate having a quorum. You folks made it happen tonight, so thank you so much. I'm happy to report that the Wayne County Commissioners unanimously approved the annexations of property in Wayne Township into the city of Worcester for the TIF district at their May 11th meeting. This was an important step in keeping this process moving forward. So thank you to the commissioners on that. The 60 business day timer started last Wednesday to getting the TIF enacted in our city. By August 15th of this year, or the third Monday in August, is the earliest council could hear and vote on legislation enacting the TIF district in the Oldman Milltown area of Oak Hill. Does council want to call a meeting for that date before summer break to keep the TIF project moving forward? I'm just asking that question, giving you something to think about, that if we would like to. That was in the past the first council meeting back after summer break, that third Monday in August. So just throwing it out there for your consideration. It will help keep the projects moving forward that are interested in the TIF. Last reminder that the public square area will be full of Airstream trailers starting on Thursday of this week and going till Sunday morning. The streets closed will be Liberty Street from Grant to Beaver Street, Market Street from North and South Streets, Buckeye Street from Strawberry Alley to Diamond Alley, and Walnut Street up to the Merchant Block parking lot. So it should be a fun event where it'll be busy, it'll be crowded, but we are looking forward to welcoming these folks into our community. So please try to stop down and say welcome. Show them that Worcester's a pretty nice place to be and a friendly town. Heads up, Farmers Market will be moved this Saturday down to the local Roots parking area because of the Airstream rally there. So it's just for this one Saturday, but I try to give people a heads up, or at least that's what we've been informed. Thanks to Linda Paulo for getting our new spring 2020 city newsletter out. It looks like this, if you haven't seen it or not at this point. We've had to do some changes because the Daily Record has stopped doing inserts, paper inserts into it. So we've gone to posting our city newsletter on our WorcesterOH.com website. You'll find it right there on the front page of that website under News. So it's a nice format. It's actually like reading a magazine. You flip the pages just like you would a magazine. So it's a nice format. Thank you, Lynn, for getting that put together for us. And lots of building going on here in Worcester. The steel is in the air, and the new restaurant and apartments beside Muddy's. Matt Long here is one of the principals involved with that. So we went there for breakfast this past weekend and was amazed at how they sprung up like daisies, as Matt was saying. We also have Worcester brush walls going up out on Daisy Way. There is a new FedEx building. It's a distribution hub going up on Bogner Business Park on Old Airport Road. So lots of good things happening in Worcester, lots of construction going on, so that's really good things in our city. I wanted to say thanks to the Exchange Club for doing the reverse raffle again to pay for our fireworks and help put those on each year. President Bikendike, I know, has been involved with that organization for many, many years, and I'll tell you, we couldn't do it without you guys, so thank you so much for
You gotta treat me nice. I'm one of the guys that writes the check to the Zambelli fireworks.
Oh, there you go. We'll have to treat you kindly here.
At least it's through July 4th, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah, and we only have 2 meetings left.
It was a nice event. It was packed in there too, so hopefully had lots of good fundage building. And we welcome back the Memorial Day Parade this year. So Monday, May 30th, starting at 9 a.m. at the fairgrounds, the parade will come up along Liberty Street and then turn south on Market and go out to Worcester Cemetery. So we thank the veterans groups for getting that put back together and serving our community. So that's everything I have for you tonight. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. We have no petitions. And did anyone sign up to
Nope.
speak? All right. So we do have, I don't think we have any committee reports since the last one we had has been a couple of meetings ago, but we do have 2 public hearings. So the first one is a rezoning request for 6.75 acres. And are you chairing this, Ms. Warren?
Apparently.
Okay. Oh, you lucked out by showing up, right?
I guess so, yeah. And actually, I think there's a typo. It is, I believe, 6.275 acres.
Might been my.
No, the agenda says that, but then throughout the rest of the
yeah.
packet, it is 275.
Okay.
So
Well, I will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you. We'll begin the first of 2 public hearings this evening with a request by Mr. Stephen Landers for a zoning map amendment change of the 6.275 acres that are located along the east side of 585 or Akron Road and the west side of Enterprise Parkway. The request is to change from an I-1 or office and limited industrial zoning to C3 or general commercial zoning. The parcel numbers in question are 67-002030.002 and 67-002030.006. This request was heard by the city's planning commission on April 7th, and the commission voted to recommend approval of this rezoning application. I would ask if anyone here would like to speak in favor of the requested zoning change. Mr. Baker, if you'd like to step up to the podium.
Yes, I'm Jerry Baker, one of the property owners of that land, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have. The reason we came for the zoning is that you can put offices there, but you can't put medical offices under the industrial zoning. And we have a couple of individuals that want to buy property. One immediately, and that is for a dental office on the Merritt Drive entrance to the right. That would be backing up to the two small industrial buildings I had where FEW and some of those companies are. And when we laid that out, we met with the city engineer, which is here tonight, who was a city engineer, and we limited on the big piece, one drive coming off of 585, and then they can enter from Merritt and enter from the back also. So we really control the traffic, how it would move there. It's not going to cause any problems to 585. I think I'm a pretty good planning commissioner myself. I've tried real hard over the years to on every project that I've done for it to be right, and I'm very proud of all of them, and I would put my name on any of them. So with that, we came and talked. This started in January, by the way, and we looked for a conditional use. They wanted architectural drawings on the building, and they wanted site plan done, and that could have cost up to $17,000. And I don't think anybody wanted to take that risk. I think the best way to go is the zoning change.
Thank you. Mr. Marion, did you have any comments other than what was in the report that was provided to council?
No, the comments are in the report. Planning Commission, it was a 5-2 vote to approve. Obviously, my recommendations are there, and I did recommend denial based upon an analysis of the comprehensive land use plan mixed with the adjacent zoning that is in place. It will not be adjacent to C3 zoning. It will be surrounded by industrial to the north, to the east, and residential to the west.
Then was the recording picking him up? Can you tell?
No, I can't tell.
You can't tell, okay.
No.
Vince, would you mind saying that again into the microphone?
Sure.
Just so we get it for the record.
Yeah, as my report detailed, I recommended denial. Planning Commission did vote 5-2 to approve a recommendation to council. My recommendation was based upon an analysis of the comprehensive land use plan for that specific area, which recommended light industrial, corporate office development on the 585 corridor or Akron Road. That mixed with the adjacent zoning with industrial surrounding the entire area to the north, south, and to the east, and residential to the west. It was my analysis that recommended that would not be the proper zoning for that location. But
Thank you.
Planning Commission did vote 5-2 to recommend approval. Yes, sir.
Since you're here, would you care to elaborate on the two dissenting votes and was there any explanation given as to why they also denied the request?
It was based upon the analysis that was in my report.
Okay. One more question in that regard. To me, a dentist office is a little bit lighter of an application than what would typically be included under a C3 general commercial. Could you elaborate on why the code does not allow a dentist office under the current zoning?
It's zoned light industrial currently, I-1, which is targeted for light manufacturing, offices associated for light manufacturing, and corporate headquarters for manufacturing facilities. It may be, a medical office may be some of it a less intensive use than a manufacturing facility, but it is not a permitted use in an I-1 zoning district, as our code is.
I guess I was a little perplexed as to just why that was, if anyone knows the reasoning, because to me, there are some light manufacturing operations that would probably create more activity and more of a disturbance in a neighborhood, in my opinion, than a dentist office would.
Well,
But
traditional light manufacturing, you're going to see traffic in the morning, you're going to see traffic in the evening as employees are coming and going to and from work.
Yeah.
Or at shift change. For a medical facility or other commercial activity offices, you're going to see traffic all day long as customers and clients, patients are coming in and out of the facility. It's going to be it's more customer-based activity versus employee-based activity.
so it's really a traffic concern above all else. Is that true?
That's one concern.
Joel, go ahead.
If you don't mind, I can add something. I think there just needs to be a distinction made
Microphone.
between the specific use that's being proposed, which there wasn't my understanding and in my discussions with Vince, there wasn't anything against that specific use. That's why a conditional use was recommended.
Okay.
It was the difference between the specific use or zoning all of those parcels as commercial, which could be anything, which could generate a lot more traffic depending on how they develop. That, I'm just giving you the reasoning,
Sure.
not saying one way or the other, which is distinct from the specific use, which I know he'd be willing to recommend, the conditional use, because that would be for that one thing, and that could happen. But like Mr. Baker said, there's cost associated with some of the upfront things that are required for conditional use. So I'm not arguing one way or the other. I'm just trying to make it clear the difference
Sure.
between the specific use of a dental office versus rezoning the entire parcels, which in the future could be multiple things.
And obviously, the applications on the table would cover more than just that medical office facility.
Correct.
That's correct, and it's key, because we don't know what's going to happen to the other 4-point-some acres to the north. And once it's rezoned, it's always zoned that way. If for some reason the medical office were ceased to exist, it's now zone C3. And any use that's permitted in a C3 would then be able to.
That last statement
redevelop.
you made, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it the purview of this body to rezone? As far as I understand, any council person could bring forth an application for rezoning at any time.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
But once it's zone C3, if I receive an application for development, then I have to review it as a permitted use.
Sure. But at any point, a council member
Sure.
could introduce legislation to change it and rezone it. Okay. Thank you. Thanks very much for answering.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or anyone here to speak in opposition to the zoning request? Okay. With that, we'll conclude the public hearing. Oh, I'm sorry, Vince.
I guess I would point out, there was nobody else at the planning commission either to speak.
Okay, thank you. So that public hearing is concluded.
All right.
Would you like me to move on into the second one, or?
Well, just for the record, we will consider the public hearing being held for the rezoning request for the 6.275 acres. And again, we'll turn the floor back over to Ms. Warden.
All right, thank you. So we'll begin the second and final public hearing of the night with a request by Mr. Matthew Long for a zoning map amendment change of a single parcel, number 67-02982.006, consisting of 2.295 acres located on the west side of Noble Drive, north of Bendon Drive, and south of Backwardville Road. Similar to the previous hearing, this is also requested from an I-1 office and limited industrial zoning to C3 general commercial district. On April 7th, the Planning Commission held a public hearing and voted to recommend approval of this rezoning request. And I see we have someone here to speak on behalf of the request tonight.
Good evening, members of council. My name is Matthew Long. I'm here tonight on behalf of Vidia OH Holdings, the owner of the property requesting the zoning map amendment. As mentioned, this is a zoning map amendment from I-1 to C3 along Noble Drive. This is essentially about a 2-acre leftover vacant land after the development of what you would probably know best as Technographics Building 1 and Building 2. Just to the north of Building 2, there's this sliver of about 2 acres, 3 acres of land that was never developed. And sitting in an I-1 district 2 acres becomes slightly more problematic to develop for an industrial purpose, whereas commercial purposes, as you've heard tonight, open up a different basket of uses for this property. In this specific instance, it's surrounded by all the properties to the north and all of the properties to the west by C3 zoning, and for the most part, the land to the south has been developed, as we've said, as office space, former Technographics, now Village Networks headquarters, and then the vacant building to the north of it. This is a step down in intensity that, again, just opens up a variety of different uses to buffer the future development of this property. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended in favor of this application, and I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that members of council may have about this application.
I'd like to ask, I didn't see anything in our packets, but is there any intended use at this point, or is it just for potential development?
Whenever I come before council on these, I caution that it could be any use within a C3 district.
Sure.
And anything that may or may not be behind the scenes is purely speculative.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Long? Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Again, I'll ask Mr. Marion, do you have any comments?
No additional comments other than Planning Commission.
No additional comments, other than Planning Commission did recommend unanimously approval, and it followed my recommendation in the packet that you have before you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition to this request? Okay, we'll consider the second hearing concluded.
All right, rezoning request for 2.295 acres has had a public hearing. We have no unfinished business. We do have 4 items of new business, since there's only 4 here, and all 3 of these or all 4 of these are slated for 3 readings. That at best we can just have a first reading. So, Ms. DiPaolo, would you please read ordinance number 2022-11?
Ordinance number 2022-11. An ordinance amending Part 11 zoning of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Worcester, Ohio, to rezone land to C3 General Commercial for property located on Akron Road and Enterprise Parkway.
Ms. Warden, we'll turn the floor back over to you.
Thank you. So as we just heard during our first public hearing this evening, Mr. Landers is requesting on behalf of Mr. Baker approval of a zoning change as recommended by the Planning Commission during their April 7th meeting. This request is for 6.275 acres that are located along the east side of 585 or Akron Road and the west side the west side of Enterprise Parkway. The request includes 2 parcels, and if approved, would change the zoning from I-1 Office Limited to C3 General Commercial. The applicant indicated that his application, that one of the parcels is hoped to be developed into a dentist's office, something that is prohibited under its current I-1 zoning. In addition to medical and dental offices, other types of business that are allowed in a C3 district but prohibited in an I-1 are financial institutions and ATMs, funeral homes and care centers, and hotels and restaurants. While the Planning Commission voted to approve the request, it should be noted, as Mr. Marion said, that the staff recommends denial of the application based on several factors. Their primary reason is that the application is not consistent with the objectives of the city's comprehensive plan, whereby it reduces opportunities for light industrial research and development and office development. Their recommendation is that the applicant apply to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a use variance on the parcel that is the proposed home to the dental office. And we had that discussion during our hearing this evening. I would point out that, among all the comments that were made, I would just like to throw maybe devil's advocate side in there and say, with the remaining 2 or 3, however many acres that would be left after the proposed dental office were to go in, I can't imagine that there would be too much of traffic congestion. That's just my 2 cents. I travel that corridor quite frequently, and I don't imagine it being worse than it is already. So, but we will keep this on first reading this evening, and hopefully we can have a vote during the next meeting when the rest of our colleagues are present.
All right, ordinance number 2022-11 has had its first reading. We now will look at ordinance number 2022-12. It'll be again presented by Ms. Warden. As previously said, it's all slated for 3 readings, and we do not have enough council members to even think about suspending the rules, but we do have to follow the rule and have Mr. Paulo to please read the title.
Ordinance number 2022-12, an ordinance amending Part 11 zoning of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Worcester, Ohio, to rezone land to C3 General Commercial for property located on Noble Drive.
Ms. Warden, again, we turn our eyes to you.
Thank you. This ordinance is very similar to the previous one. It's a request to rezone parcel number 67-02982.006, which consists of 2.295 acres and is located on the west side of Noble Drive, north of Bendon Drive, and south of Backwardville Road, rezoning from I-1 Office Limited Industrial to C3 General Commercial District. Like the first request, the Planning Commission voted to recommend approval. And unlike the first request, staff also recommends approval of this ordinance, citing consistency with the city's comprehensive plan by expanding opportunities for commercial development with the adjacent land. And we will keep this on first reading this evening as well.
All right, thank you, Ms. Warden. We'll consider ordinance number 2022-12 as having its first reading. We'll give you a little break because
Thank you.
Mr. Sanders has the next item up for reading, and that's resolution number 2022-20. If you would, again, Mr. Paulo, please read the title of this.
Resolution number 2022-20, a resolution providing for the annual tax budget for fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2023.
Mr. Sanders, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is our annual thing that Ohio Revised Code, Section 5705.28, requires us to adopt prior to July 15th of this year. This will be the tax budget for 2023 for the city. We will review this in depth next meeting, since we can't vote on it tonight anyways. But we need to have that information into the county auditor before July 20th, again pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code. For council, you have the, I believe, 9 or 10 pages in there, so if there's any questions, please reach out to myself or the administration with any questions. And not necessarily related to this, we will also be doing a public hearing at our June 6th meeting as part of our council meeting related to this tax budget request. And that's all I have this evening, Mr. President.
All right, we'll consider resolution number 2022-20 as having its first reading. Brings us to the last item on the agenda is ordinance number 2022-13. It'll be presented by Ms. Warden, and I appreciate you pinch hitting for all these matters this evening. Before I get back to you, Ms. Warden, Mr. Paulo, for the last time, would you please read the title of this piece of legislation?
Ordinance number 2022-13, an ordinance amending Chapter 105 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Worcester, Ohio, entitled Wards and Boundaries.
Ms. Warden, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So I'll just go over this, but again, as Mr. Beitendijk said, we won't be voting on anything this evening, so this is just to kind of summarize what the ordinance is about. This is a request to modify Chapter 105, Wards and Boundaries of Worcester's Codified Ordinances. The changes pertain to Section 105.2 through Section 105.4, which are the meets and bounds description of the boundaries of each of the 4 wards in the city. These proposed changes comply with the requirements of Chapter 105 that state ward boundaries must be adjusted in order to maintain substantially equal populations in each ward and to provide equal representation for each voting district. The population information is based on the most recent census, which took place in 2020, and the recommended changes are in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, Section 731.06D for boundary requirements. In 2020, Worcester saw a 4.2% increase in the population from the previous census in 2010. That's roughly 1,100 people from, in that 10-year span. And that is significantly more than the state's average of 2.3%. The definition of the word substantial varies from community to community based on interpretation of its legislative bodies. In 2010, Worcester's ward populations were within about 12.5% or 600 people of one another. In 2020, that number grew slightly to 13.9% or about 900 people, with Ward 1 having the lowest population of 6,510 and Ward 3 having the highest population with 7,402 residents in 2020. Several weeks ago, the administration shared these proposed boundary changes with council members, and you'll also find the same maps in your packets this evening, which are also available online on the city's website in the agenda for this evening, or I've been told you can contact Ms. DiPaolo, and she will be happy to send you a PDF of the
Not
map.
only happy, but more than happy.
More than happy, she said, yes, so please call her and. And then this is where it gets a little bit complicated in the details of what the new boundaries will be. So I kind of wrote my layman's term summary of this. So in summary, Ward 1 will grow to incorporate a portion of Ward 4, specifically the residents living on the east side of Oak Hill Road, with the northernmost boundary being the south side of Hamilton Avenue and a portion of Beechwood Avenue, to include Blessing Avenue, Park Boulevard, Arbor Street, Stevens Avenue, and the east side of North Grant Street from Stevens south to Foster Path, and then continuing across Quimby Avenue, and including the south half of Pearl Street over to the east side of Beaver, then down to the south side of Bowman, and continuing on its existing boundary at that point. Believe me, that is less complicated than what's in our packets. Ward 2 will extend to incorporate a portion of Ward 3 that includes the south and east side of Highland Avenue, and all of the streets that lie between Portage Road, the west side of Cleveland Road, and East Highland Avenue, commonly known as the Robin Hood neighborhood. And finally, Ward 4 will incorporate what many refer to as the car streets, specifically the neighborhood located between Oak Hill and Christmas Run Boulevard, between Skylark and West Highland Avenues. As this information was provided to council several weeks ago, we've had ample time to review it, and I believe that at the next council meeting, we should be able to make a decision and vote on this. But that is all I have for this evening.
All right, thank you, Ms. Warren, for a pretty clear explanation of what went
Was it?
on. So,
Yeah, okay, good. I was complicated reading it, but I'm like, it made sense when I wrote it down, so.
yeah, I appreciate that, and you're doing your homework and making it simple for someone like me with a, so, you know, you made it so even a sixth grader could understand.
Oh, good, good. The sixth grader can understand
Yeah.
districting.
Yeah. So that brings us to our miscellaneous portion, which no one signed up for the public, and at this point in time, we'll start with council. We'll start with Mr. Cavan.
Oh, okay. Yes, I need to, I believe, schedule a safety committee meeting to discuss changes, upgrades to the fire station on Market Street. I'm hopeful Mr. Saley will attend, and he can fill us in on his wish list or things that are going to happen. But we can check it out then and I'm thinking 6:30. Is that enough time?
What's the date?
The 21st? Or is it 21st because of,
It is the 21st.
It's the 20.
it'll be Tuesday, Tuesday, the 21st, 6:30.
The only question I would have is if you would want a tour before that. If you did, you might want to bump that up a little earlier to have a little longer.
Well, it wouldn't hurt a thing. Yeah, we could say 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock, we can do a tour
Okay.
of the fire station. It's not like we're gonna have any travel time, so, good.
And if not, maybe just say 6:30 presentation.
Okay.
Why don't we say 6:15? If we get done early,
Yeah.
it's a lot easier to start at 6:15. If it runs over, then, we'll start at, be late, so.
Okay, so we'll go with 6:15 then.
6:15
So still-
for the tour.
Tour still at
6:15.
Six.
Oh, what?
The tour's at 6.
Oh, okay.
And the meeting will start at 6:15.
Gotcha.
So we don't have to sit around for 20 minutes, because I can't believe a tour will last more than 10 minutes.
Do we, I was thinking what Lynn said initially, I mean, do we think that the presentation's gonna take an hour and 15? Why don't we just do the tour at 6:15? That would help me
Well,
out.
you think they-
It would help the working folks
Do you-
out.
Well, I know, or do you think that the presentation's gonna take an hour, and we do the tour at 6:30 and have the meeting begin at 6:45? That way it even helps you out further.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. So we're gonna start at 6:30.
Yep.
We're gonna meet here, walk over, do a tour, come back, begin the presentation. Okay. That sounds adequate. I mean, we'll get an eye of what he's talking about, and we'll have a good reference point when he does bring up some of the things I'm sure he's gonna bring up.
We promise we'll be active listeners during the presentation.
I would only say, you'll probably take all of half an hour to walk through and ask some questions over there.
We're not gonna put on gear or anything like that.
Just you.
I've done that.
I heard.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right,
Okay, we'll say 6:30.
okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Warden?
I think you've all heard enough of me tonight, so I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Mr. Silvestri?
Nothing to add further, Mr. President. Thank you.
And Mr. Sanders will give you the last word.
I have nothing to add.
Well, I see Mr. Silvestri's moving to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Sanders. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.